Big Questions with the Dead Milkmen.
Hey, guess what? On Big Questions, we are going to talk about the Dead Milkmen's fantastic yet flawed ninth album, The King in Yellow. And we're going to talk about our memories and stories from this album. I have great memories. I had a lot of fun. It originated when we decided in early January 2nd, to be precise, officially decided 2009 at a meeting with our manager, Dave Reckner, present, that we would indeed start working on a new album. And we also wanted to play shows after having fun at the Fun Fest in November. Correction, this album came out in 2011, not 2008. Rodney's one directive was it wouldn't have any music that was from before the present time, so we'd start fresh. And we did. In January of that year, I came up with 3 demos, all of which made it somehow. And we did file sharing as our way of collaborating. I sent out the first demo I did, the first thing I recorded, and I didn't have a digital workstation yet. I did this on my 4-track analog, which actually caused some frustration down the road. A song that became known as the song in D. Everyone was calling it Joe's song in D, so it didn't have a title, but it became known as The King in Yellow eventually. And for me, it was my expression of joy, exuberance, in that we were actually getting back together. I didn't think this would ever happen. And it's just a simple song. It has 3 chords, D, E minor, and G. It never goes to the fifth. It never goes to A. And Rodney decided to, not too long after that, to insert an Irish murder ballad into it known as William Blue. I also put up music for what became known as Commodify Your Descent and Passport to Depravity, and those were pretty much formed as they were. Rodney put the lyrics to them as they were formatted, and we mostly used file sharing to come up with our ideas. There was only one song I remember that didn't get demoed in the normal way, and it just kind of came together at practice. Dean wrote the words and put them in an email to a song called Hangman, and in practice, Dean said he wanted to be surfy, and Dan came up with this bass riff, which immediately inspired me to come up with a chord progression that worked. And it rarely ever happens like that, but it just kind of gelled in that, and we taped it. Well, I brought a tape recorder to every practice at that time, a cassette recorder, when I would record things and then digitize them later and put them on my website, like a secure place on my website. And I noticed, looking back in emails, that we didn't use Dropbox at all. We just used file sharing through emails, and Dean put things on a secure place on his website, and Rodney did the same thing, and I did the same thing, and Dan shared some songs from emails. And that's pretty much how we collaborated. And we practiced twice a week, usually. We were pretty good at practicing. It started out Fridays and Sundays, 2 hours each. And that's because we also were playing shows. I think the first one was Brooklyn. We played Philly, Brooklyn, Boston, all these shows in 2009. And we would divide the time, half for the new songs and half for the set. And that's kind of the routine we got into. Rodney also made a spreadsheet, which is still visible somewhere, that kept track of all of the progress on all of the songs. He was the organizer. Like, this song could use a bridge. This song needs lyrics. This song has lyrics. This one's done. And I could see by the end of 2009, the first year, we had more than half the songs that would be on the album. By the end of 2010, in November, we went into a studio called Dogg Zzone and recorded 10 of the songs. And then the first weekend in December, we went to Minor Street and recorded 7 more songs. And they were mixed in December by Brian. We didn't mix at Dogg Zzone. Buddha's Inn, by the way, is below a music shop, a music store shop, and they had restricted hours because of that. We could only.
Although the owner said to me, he was like, when I was talking to him, he's like, well, I can block off the store so no ambient noise comes in, no customers. I'm like, no, I want that. I want that on the record. I want to hear conversations from people upstairs. I want to hear the bell. I wanted all that in the background. We didn't get it, but God, I wanted that. I really did.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy named Jeffrey.
Yeah.
And
is that studio still there?
It's still there. I recorded some stuff there with Dan not too long ago, before the pandemic. So it's kind of long. But I know there's some misgivings. I think I was really excited about the project and didn't step back far enough from it to be critical of it. But listening to it now, if I had one thing to change, I would not release Can't Relax, that song. The song Can't Relax, which I wrote. Rodney wrote the horn section to it. I didn't write that, but I'll blame that on him. But I cringe every time. I don't. And in fact, there's an email from Dave Reckner after we recorded all the songs and we had 17. He said, I suggest you keep back 2 of them, so you only release 15. Keep back 2 of them in case anybody wants things for comps or things. And we said, no, we want to release all 17. So that's pretty much my memory of the album. We had some inspiration from J.P. Hassan, who is Plesiosaur or JP Incorporated, because he asked us to collaborate with him on an album, a project for TV theme songs for TV shows that don't exist. But somehow that fell through. It never happened. But we did a bunch. We came up with a bunch of ideas. Hangman,
yeah, including Baby Boom, a show about a bomb squad made up of children.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I'm still waiting for Baby Boom, not only as a song, but as a show.
We did it as a song. Yeah. Sorry, Joe.
Demo for that.
Terrible poor taste in one called Homeless Holiday.
Oh, yeah.
Which also had a great song.
Yeah.
I'm ashamed I came up with that, but Dean wrote lyrics for it.
Baby Boom. Baby Boom was my contribution. Bomb Squad, because children have tiny hands and could defuse the bombs. And there's like a bomb in a daycare center and everything. It's like, no wonder children cry. No wonder they're bedwetters. Yeah, it was worse than you can imagine, and I was so happy with it.
And Rodney also had a directive for us to write songs about Dan Haggerty, but that was after we recorded.
Yeah.
I don't know. We did. We each wrote a song about Dan Haggerty. Yeah. So that's it for me.
I love this album, and I have a special place in my heart for it. Especially considering it felt huge being able to write with you guys and work on something new. At the time where we started talking about it, I had just started working probably the worst job that I ever had. You guys remember me talking about it? And I had a little MP3 player, and I had the songs that we'd been sending to each other, and I would sit there and I was typing that stuff all day, and I would listen over and over to the demos. And I remember the very first one was Caitlin Child, what ended up being Caitlin Child's. Dean had this demo that to this day is still like, that demo, it just sounds like perfect. I don't know. And then, we got a hold of it. And for some reason, I ended up saying the bass should do the main riff, like what was originally the guitar riff.
Cool that we actually got to meet Caitlin later on.
Did anybody hear
I said it was.
He said it's cool that we got to meet Caitlin. We actually got to meet the actual Caitlin.
Yeah, we did get to meet Caitlin Childs, and I for the keyboard part on that, I think the keyboard sound, I think I spent an entire weekend without sleep, just auditioning sound after sound after sound. So
it was worth it. That's a great sound.
Yeah, I hope you have some more tales for us to time it out for Dean can come back. Here comes Dean. Well, here he comes. Let's see if he comes back. It just says Dean.
Yeah, we got to meet Caitlin Childs and Man Rasterman in the same day. Yeah. It's pretty cool. And they knew each other.
Caitlin knew everybody. Her friend knew the band Watain, which is the band that collects roadkill. So I thought that was interesting. All right, Dean's back. Let's see if he can stay back. He's jittering already. I don't know.
All right, continue, Dan. That's the ball's in your
So,
court.
did you catch that? I thought it was cool that we met Caitlin.
Yeah.
later.
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah. We were just talking about that when you were gone. And I remember Bohemia. Rodney had a demo that had some beats with lyrics, with basically the lyrics that you use. And I just like with what was the new one? How do you even manage to exist? I felt like I heard music in the little beats, and then did a demo for. Or actually, did I do a demo for Bohemia? I think I just brought it to practice, like the baseline idea. And then Meaningless Upbeat Happy Song, I had the demo for that, and then Rodney came right back with the lyrics. Just the whole experience, especially like being in the studio was a whole other story, but just the whole experience of like collaborating with you guys was like really important to me, especially at that time. I was just feeling really like down in my life with that job, and so that was like a nice thread to hold on to, of like something to hope for. And yeah, I guess I also did the demo for Some Young Guy, which turned into the masterpiece it is today.
Right. Somebody asked about why we heard that.
Why? Yeah.
I have that question too.
So Dan submitted an instrumental, but he titled it Some Young Guy and asked for lyric help, and I jumped in and volunteered and thought I could write a lyric. I wrote 3 sets. I wrote 3 different. The first set of lyrics I wrote were a guy meets a girl, falls in love with her, but she's two-timing, and she's up. The last verse, she's with some young guy.
Maybe you should have gone with those. I don't know.
Dan liked it, and we were practicing, and Rodney said, I think you need more work on this. And I went back to the drawing board, and instead of working on that idea, I just went with a new idea. Woman, who is probably a prostitute.
Sex worker. Sex worker.
Sex worker, I'm sorry. Or some, I don't know. It's the second one was a little more I don't know, spicy maybe. A cougar maybe. A cougar, you call them an older woman looking for some young guy. And I could probably, where are the lyrics? Because I found them. An example is she was wronged by Mr. Right. Now she walks the streets at night with her eyes open wide, looking to sting some young guy doing bad with Mr. Good. She will be misunderstood. There's no need for you to pry. She's got a thing for some young guy. But again,
yeah, I remember in the first draft, it wasn't her eyes that were open wide for some young guy, and I had to step in and say, no.
The other part was the other section was, I've come to realize ain't no use to cry. The world was made for some young guy. Rodney again said, that's not your strongest work. You could do better. And then the third one, I came up with the one that really became the song, where it's a voyeur, sung from first point of view, a voyeur. I never thought that people would think it was me because the guy is old and frail. And I didn't consider myself old. But frail, maybe not old. And but I was just singing the something else for the middle part, and Rodney suggested a different thing. Rodney came up with the shot glass, tube of glue,
paper bag,
duct tape, bottle of wine, some small, some young. It makes it a whole lot darker than what I intended. A whole lot darker. And then that's probably why people say, why would you come up? It's disturbing. It's supposed to be disturbing. And that's all that I have for that one.
I want to say I do like the song Can't Relax. I don't think you should discount that. And I think one of the underrated songs on that album is Sullivans. It's just so catchy. I don't know. And the lyrics, it's this great story. It's almost, I feel like it's a real story. And I still wonder if maybe it is. But
the night, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I actually came up with the lyrics for Bohemia and Sullivans the same night. There's a a person in the music scene who's a flagrant asshole. He's part of the flagrant asshole crowd. And me and another friend were dealing with him at a club. And I came back from, walked out of there and I thought, I hate this guy so much. The best revenge is just write some songs. So as I was leaving, I wrote Bohemia. And then there's a place on North 2nd Street here in Philly. It's like second, I think, just above Callow Hill. And it's called Everything Plastic. And the motto is, and I'll put a picture up of it, or while someone, the motto is plastics for home and industry. And so I actually, by the time I got home, I had words for like 2 songs. So that's why I always say, go out. You know, if you want to write some songs, go out. Even if you deal with an asshole, there's a chance to get a little, you know, a little, I don't want to say revenge out of that, but turn it into something positive and say, you know what, I'm gonna write some songs walking back. I do that all the time. I'll walk the entire length of the city and write some songs.
My memory of this album is working with my wife on the cover art. So Melissa has done a few art related things for the Dead Milkmen over the years. She drew the Punk Rock Girl single cover, as well as the promotional Punk Rock Girl paper doll. And she also drew the images for the Methodist coloring book. But I was able to go back into my photo archives and I found a bunch of photos from 2011 when we set up all the objects that appear on the cover art on our sideboard table in our dining room. And you can see us arranging things and taking pictures. There's even a great shot of our cat Val walking through everything while we were trying to get things set up. Of course, one of the main items is Rodney's, what do you call that? Hurdy-gurdy. So at one, you know, I called on Melissa to help out because at one point she was a photo stylist for one of the major department stores here in Philadelphia. And so she helped me set up and take pictures and we put it all together. So that's my main memory of the album, is working on the cover art.
Okay, and every time that Dean's dropped out there, just imagine he's saying something good about Jim Jones's People's Temple. You were dropping out of it. Anything else you want to add while your connection's going through?
No, I just hope you got all that. Sorry.
It's not your fault. It's the interwebs.
I think we did actually get everything, though. It was...
Yep, there we go. Yes, well, you didn't need to show us that. I guess I go now. Dean's really frozen there. If you have one of those people, don't pick it up when you're in a Zoom meeting. So first of all, I'd like to take a minute to thank Kathleen Kennedy for suggesting that we do back-to-back album episodes. You know, a lot of people question how she's doing over there at Disney, saying she's not doing very well, but I say, hey, go for it. I am looking forward to Star Wars: The Rise of Aunt Beru. I think that's going to be really, really good. So yes, thank you for suggesting that we do this, Kathleen. You've never been wrong. So King of Yellow, I gave a listen to over the last couple of days, and it's much better than I remember. I don't remember Dean's popping in and out. I don't remember it being as good as it was. I listened to it and I really, really liked it. It has a lot of nice touches. There's a weird minister at the end of Buried in the Ground, which came from a CD that Dean found, I think, in a pizza place, and gave that to me. So that minister, because he was giving him out, he couldn't sue us for using his stuff. So that is a good one. Also, we mentioned my hurdy-gurdy, or Dean might have dropped out. We talked about people don't do that. Don't do what I did, which is play an instrument just to play an instrument on an album, just so you have that credit next to it. You know, and then later on when you're interviewed by people like, I understand you played hurdy-gurdy on this album. And I'd be like, yeah, I shouldn't have. I really should have just taken the time for that and focused on other stuff. I mentioned Bohemia came out of, again, just very helpful. If you're having a bad night and I was dealing with like the preeminent asshole musician in town. And a friend of mine who was a smart ass guy who passed away a few years ago was next to me. And the guy was just going off about his project and how it was going to, you know, it's a lot like, and he's being very rude to me. It's like, not like Nora Jones, not that you'd be familiar with her and all that. And he's going through this list of stuff, and my buddy can't take him. And my buddy had played a bunch of instruments, and he'd actually offered to give my buddy some musical tips once. So we're sitting there at the bar getting hammered, and I'm not saying anything. I'm being nice, and we know what's coming. And he's like, and I'm getting all the best musicians together. And of course, then he starts on to something else. So he's not, not saying getting all the best musicians together. Would you like to do something? So when he says he moves on to something else, my buddy clapped me on the shoulder and went, "Oh, good. I thought he was going to invite you to be part of that shit show," like right in front of him. And I was just like, I wound up losing it, and that was a good feeling. So the Nora Jones thing is what inspired that. And I thought on the way home, I was thinking about people who are caught sort of between worlds. If you're a college-educated person from a working-class background, often you're kind of like some high arty stuff, but you also like stuff like Jerry Springer, and that's where the 300-pound psychic baby comes from. I was saying might be much more valid than Nora Jones. There's so much good stuff. Being Must Be Happy song I gave that a listen to today. I really enjoyed that. And we talked for a little bit about Sullivans, which again I thought Sullivans when I first heard it kind of drug on and stuff. Listening to it now, I really like Sullivans. So pretty happy. I think somebody didn't want her son to run a meth lab or something. I can't remember what the deal was. I think there had been another. It might even been me. I think there was another ending. Originally, it was even darker than the meth lab. So that was, I think that she got murdered and they treated her with solvents or something. I forget. So that was, and again, if you're in Philadelphia, please visit Everything Plastic. Remember, plastics for home and industry. Just kind of looking through back here, there's really good stuff on this, that listening to it again. And Melora Says, which didn't come out quite as good as I wanted it to, but that is a nod to Melora Krieger from Rasputina, who I always thought should have a song about her. Melora on stage says very witty things, and they're always good. There used to be a collection on the web of what they call Melora-isms, and I used to enjoy those. So just looking back through it, it was a pretty good album. I think I trashed it the other week saying it had good ideas with bad execution, but overall it's I rather like it. So I'm saying nice things about it.
Wow.
Play more from it live.
So it's an album you should consider listening to if you haven't heard it yet. That's my recommendation. That's one of my recommendations. My other recommendation, moving on, is the latest or sixth album from the band Protomartyr, who are a punk band from Detroit. They've been around since 2010. People call them, they've been labeled punk, post-punk, art rock. It can be gloomy at times, but this album is particularly, I enjoy it. It has very good guitar work and very big sounding layered guitars on it. And the singer, Joe Casey, reminds me of, he has like a gravelly voice. He reminds me of Joe Strummer sometimes. But I've seen him compared to Nick Cave and Marky Smith of The Fall. So give it a listen if you're into that sort of thing. It's their sixth album. It's called Formal Growth in the Desert.
I would like to recommend Trauma-Informed Care. It's something that I've learned I've worked for a mental health facility. It's something that I had to do for like training purposes, like learn about it. And I've realized over time, like it can be applied to anyone. And it's basically like, just don't assume everyone around you is okay. You don't have to like walk on eggshells and like not worry about offending people, like traumatizing them. But just like an example would be like you're driving and somebody's like driving slowly and get frustrated. Like maybe this person has had a traumatic car accident before and they have to, they want to drive slow to be more careful. Like just basic ideas of like going around and not assuming people are just like all okay, not making assumptions and judgments about people. And just trying to be kind, I guess. If I find a link, I'll put it up.
Okay.
Let me try and get this out. Can you hear me?
Yes. Are you with us, Dean? Are you with us?
I'm going to recommend a YouTube video from Red Meats Recording Channel. The video is called Your Synthesizer is Trans and Other Stories. I think it's a great video. You should check it out. It's celebrating trans creators and innovators in the world of synthesizers. That's my recommendation.
First, I just realized that during our segment, I forgot to mention the book, The King in Yellow, which the album title is based upon, by Robert W. Chambers, not to be confused with Robert Chambers, the preppy killer. All right, know your Bob Chambers. Don't confuse the two of them. I'd seen a thing John Carpenter did called Cigarette Burns, and I told my wife about this book. This is how it's wound up eventually coming to be the title. She's like, no way, that doesn't exist. I'm like, yes, it does. And so this is her copy of it. So if you get a chance, you can read this. You can read it for free at Project Gutenberg. All right, so first of all, it's summertime, and my son Walter joined a Little League team. And Walter asked the coach, what would be the best position for me? And the coach said, reverse cowgirl. Hi-oh! See, that's comedy, people. And if you enjoy comedy as much as I do, you're going to enjoy Norm Macdonald's best joke, the Dirty Johnny joke. We'll put up a link to it. It is fantastic. It is my favorite joke, and I burst out laughing when I heard it. Also, I'm going to recommend a podcast where I may have mentioned it before. It's called Dogg Zzone 9000. They have been on a comedy streak for a couple months now, and the last episode involved this guy's penis judo pamphlet. So it's really, really, really funny. Give a listen to Dogg Zzone 9000. The band Miscellen has a new album out called Silver Tongue Psychodrome. I would describe them best as really hard and heavy rock, and I am honored to be on this album. I am on the track Freak Out at Funland. Here's a little tip. I play a carnival talker. Also just, it's on Bandcamp. Go get it off Bandcamp, but you should also have the Bandcamp app on your phone so you can listen to music like wherever you go and go, oh, I want to hear something new. I'm often amazed somebody will show me their phone. There's no Bandcamp app. I'm like, what are you, Amish? What is your major malfunction? So that is really all that I have. But yeah, I should have mentioned this earlier. It came out, by the way, when the album came out, we're cursed. It came out the same time True Detective came out, the TV series on HBO. And there was a whole thing about the King in Yellow. And this is how we're good people. We did not say, hey, if you want to learn more about the King in Yellow, check out our album. No, we did not do that. People would ask me, they say, hey, does your album have anything to do with the King in Yellow? I'm like, no, you will learn nothing. There's no tie-in with True Detective, none of that. So, all right, I think I'm glad I got that out. I should have had it in my notes, but I should have mentioned it. It's like I felt bad. There's a movie called Summer of '84. And it came out, they were working on it as the show Stranger Things came out. And apparently there's a lot of similar looks between the two. And I feel really bad because I've never seen Stranger Things, but Summer of '84 is a good film. So if you've seen both, watch both films and then let me know what you think. Or don't.